Welcome to the Fabulous 50s and Beyond. I'm Jim Pollard, your co-host with my wife, Jeanetta. Today we're going to talk about how to be a volunteer and volunteering and the work that volunteers do. We have as our guest John Dyke. He's volunteer with Baptist Relief Services. He's been kind of around the world, not really, but throughout the eastern, southeastern seaboard of the United States, working various hurricanes and different things. And we're going to be talking about that and some other things this morning. So you stay tuned, we'll be right back.
And he'd say, go with what you got. Start from where you are. Give it your best shot. Keep reaching for that star. Get in the race. Keep your own pace. Keep moving and never stop. Just go. Go with what you got.
Welcome back. I'm Jim Pollard with my wife, Jeanetta. Today we're going to be talking about different types of volunteer work and relief work. Our guest today is John Dyke. And John, you've been with the Baptist Disaster Relief Services for how many years now?
Well, since 1990-91.
1991. Because we share a kind of a date there. I don't know whether you realize it or not, but you said the first hurricane you worked was Andrew.
That's correct.
We were there in Andrew, so we actually lived in Fort Lauderdale when Andrew struck the biggest part of Homestead. Do you remember just what part of South Florida you were working in down there?
Homestead.
You were working in Homestead? Yes. In one of the schools? I know they had places set up in some of the schools.
We had our unit set up there at the church there in Homestead.
At the church in Homestead?
There in the Baptist church.
Yeah, because I know I went down and held a service on Sunday morning. I think it was at one of the schools where they were having a feeding place, and we were involved in work down there quite a bit.
There were several different, Tennessee and different states had their set up.
Right. It was interesting to find out. You know, we had heard about Baptist Relief Services, but the first time that we ever got hands-on involved with them was down there, and we knew that they'd been doing a great work. But we found out the history. Were you in the actual first wave that went in?
Yes.
So you actually staged in Orlando and then went on in after it happened, right?
Yes.
Yeah, see, that's what we heard. We didn't realize they did that. They said that y'all started moving as soon as they said there was going to be a bad hurricane. Tell us about that.
Well, our unit went on one ahead, but I followed up 3 or 4 days later. Anyway, Larry Cook, he was the one that was heading up the unit. From the Kentucky Baptist in Louisville. And so he carried the unit down and got things set up and going, and we come in and took over and relieved, and I spent 30-something days down there, but in the meantime, people would come in and stay just about a week. Then they'd go in and replace.
Well, you probably didn't realize it, but we lived down there for 23 years. You stay in 30-something days, that's almost long enough to classify you as a native, you know. That's what we used to tell people.
Yeah, we had heard that they would go so far. When they heard it was coming, and we were told it was going to be a bad one, that the Baptists came so far and sat there and waited until they actually told them where it had hit. Because you don't know, because sometimes they say it's going to hit someplace, then it changes course and it goes to another place.
Yeah, I believe our unit went in and stayed at maybe Fort Lauderdale or somewhere there 2 or 3 days and they had to get the thing cleared out where it could get down to.
Right. That was the amazing thing about that hurricane was our company, I had a company also at that time, and I think you said you had your own electrical company here, you were an electrician, but we were a landscaping company, so we had done a lot of work in Homestead and Miami and Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach. So as soon as the hurricane was over, she and our son, who worked with us, we got in one of our trucks and headed down there. And as we started down, we said, well, it's not so bad until we got to a certain point. And then when I could see the trees that were twisted and didn't have a leaf on it, and it looked like it was the dead of winter up here, we knew, we actually went in as a church and relieved people and would cut our ways into some of the areas to take food in, take our chainsaws.
Oh, that's the reason we had to stage, outside for 3 or 4 days so to clear the road out before we could get in there.
Right. So it was bad, but I think that was probably the time that the Baptist Relief Services really got their name as far as a real agency of being there when they were needed.
Well, I was impressed because I know that the Baptists were some of the first ones in to work.
So some of the others that you've worked, tell us about those.
What, the hurricanes?
Hurricanes, or even, I
Any
guess you
kind of
do any kind
disaster.
of disaster work that you've done.
Oh, yeah. Of course, I told you I want to go over to Fort Myers Beach when they hit over there last year, and the year before last, and we had the 4.
Right.
Why, we went over there and spent, I don't know, 10, 12 days, and then another unit come in. And then they said the next hurricane was coming, so we moved out and went back. I think I carried the unit all the way back, maybe to, I don't know, maybe Atlanta. Went way back up there,
Just had to get out of the way of
get
it.
out of the way, and then they went back over to Punta Gorda.
Yeah, Punta Gorda was hit bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were down there last year, and we could, I mean, and that's where they put up the big trailer city, mobile home city was
Yeah.
in Punta Gorda, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, but it was hit bad. We saw that.
Because even last year, they still had, the blue tarps on the roofs.
Oh,
They,
yeah. Well,
they
they still
still
have.
hadn't been fixed.
They still have
Still
nothing.
have some of them, yes.
That's, I mean, that's really something.
You know, some of them, I guess the insurance company wouldn't fix them, and they're still holding on, trying
Well, they
to.
said some of the companies actually went broke. You know.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
And-
Well, one company, I own some rental houses down there, and one of my companies went broke, and I had to change.
Wow.
On one of the houses, I had to change the insurance.
Yeah. Did
Wow.
you get it fixed? I mean, where?
Oh, it didn't damage my house, but the insurance company I had it with, though,
Yeah.
they had so much damage, why,
That they went under.
they went under.
I tell you, it's tremendous at some of the things that go on down there. In your working with them down there, how many people are usually in a team?
Well, our team, it takes about 50 people to really operate it. If you're going to put out several thousand meals a day.
Several thousand a day.
Now, we went, give you an idea, we went to New York after 9/11,
Mm-hmm.
worked around the clock, and we put out up to the highest 24,000 meals in 24 hours.
24,000 meals in 24 hours.
It's 1,000 an hour, isn't it?
We had 2 shifts, 12-hour
Wow.
shifts, but we had about 70 or 80 people. You know, takes about 30 or 40 to each shift just on the.
Well, now, when you went to New York to 9/11, were you working primarily with the workers, the rescue workers? Is that who you were feeding, or was it?
Yes,
That's who it was.
the rescue work, well, and then some of the others too. I don't know exactly. I never did go out. I was in operation. I was in charge of the kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
the unit. But we prepare the food, which I don't know if you're familiar with it. No, we prepare the food and with Red Cross. Red Cross furnishes food. We work with them. We have a contract with Red Cross. We prepare food and we put them in what they call cambros, or sort of like our big drink boxes. You know, it'll hold about 75 to 100 meals.
Okay.
And they have they have trucks that come picks it up and carries it to different stations. And I think we had about 40 different stations in New York. They was feeding the workers and also feeding the people.
Mm.
And they'd come in every evening and bring their empty cambros back and tell us how many they need tomorrow. They'd report it to the Red Cross, and Red Cross would come out and tell us how many. My particular shift, I was on a day shift, and they'd tell me how many meals we gonna need for tomorrow.
Did you actually have to buy the food also? I mean,
The Red Cross bought it.
but I mean, did you have to tell them what you needed, or did they just buy it and
Yeah,
bring it to you?
yeah, we worked together on it, what was gonna fix and so on.
So you actually you fixed the order and they filled it for you. That was a job just within itself.
We had about 40 trailers out there. It was food and stuff, different things in it. And I had a person in charge of the trailers,
Mhm.
and he had about 10 or 12 men that helped unload and load, and they had it stored. And every evening before, I would tell them what I needed for the next morning, the next day to cook. And they had 4 trucks, and they'd bring it out there.
Wow.
We were stationed out at Army base or Air Force base. Had been out on the coast there. We was about, I don't know, I think it said 4 or 5 miles actually from 9/11.
Where it happened.
Of course, New York City, 4 or 5 miles is a long time with all that traffic.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
yeah.
Because we were there last year, year before last at Christmas, and I said, I wouldn't drive in that traffic. Man, why? It's terrible.
But everyone up there really worked good with us, the police department and people too that wanted to.
Yeah. Well, it was quite a tragedy. I remember, man, it's like none of us will ever forget when John F. Kennedy was shot, where we were and what we were doing.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be the same thing about 9/11. You know, that we'll remember those tragedies. Those are probably, I hope in my lifetime, that's the two main tragedies I ever have to remember.
Well, I never did. I stayed out at the feeding unit all the time. I never did go down and really look at it or anything. But what sticks in my mind, go back to Andrew, I saw all that
Oh, yeah.
out
The
through there.
devastation, it was unreal. Those huge electric light poles, concrete, just snapped just like they were a
Twisted up.
toothpick or something.
Oh, we were standing on one of the streets down there, and as far as you could see, whether it was a wooden pole, a steel pole, or a concrete pole, every one of them was down, just
Yeah.
as far
yeah.
as you could see.
Yeah, just smooth.
Oh, it was something else, and just to see that people, I said it's like a war zone.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've never been involved in a war, but I said you could just imagine that's what a war zone would
I
look
heard
like.
several comments like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it was utter destruction. And you know, the sad part of it was that what little people had left, they had to guard it, or else,
yes,
or else
yes.
there were people who came around looting, and they had to stay in their places with their guns and guard their own property, or what little they had left would be gone.
Well, John, this has been very interesting. We're going to take about an 8-minute break. Jeanetta and Pam Ward are going to talk about nutrition, and then we'll be back and just talk about it some more. So you stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back, Pam Ward. Today, Pam is a registered dietitian at Western Baptist Hospital, and Pam comes to share with us each week some of the things that we need to know about proper nutrition. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Doing great.
Well, today I want to talk about with all the E. coli in the news. You know,
Yes.
we've gotten a lot of questions about that, and so I wanted to talk a little bit today about just foodborne illnesses in general, not just E. coli, but there are lots and lots of them out there, and people don't often realize that. In fact, a lot of times when you think you've got a 24-hour bug, you very well may have food poisoning,
Really?
and you just don't realize it. The estimate for foodborne illnesses in the United States is 76 million cases a year.
Wow.
Right. And so, like I said, a lot of times we have some kind of food poisoning and we just don't realize it. We blame it on a bug, you know, we're overworked, we're too tired, whatever it may be. But improper handling of food often is where it came from. Now, most of those cases are minor. You know, they're mild, they last a couple days and you go on. But actually, about 325,000 people are hospitalized a year with foodborne illnesses, and about 5,000 die.
Really?
Yeah, so it's, you know, this is not something new. It's come into play right now because of the spinach, and now, you know, we're hearing some about the lettuce. But foodborne illnesses are not new. They just don't always make the news like this one has.
Well, this was so bad because, you know, everybody thinks eat the spinach and lettuce and you have to have your greens.
You're right.
And then nobody wanted to touch them because who knows, you know.
You're exactly right. And the problem with the E. coli is, of course, these are salad greens that we're going to eat, and you cannot kill E. coli by washing. It has to be by heat. So you can wash your produce as well as you can, but it's not going to play any role in the E. coli aspect of it. If it's infected, it's infected.
Yeah.
Now, cooked spinach, though, is fine. And a lot of people don't realize that. It's the cooking that makes a difference.
It's the raw that I like.
I know. Me
I
too.
really don't care for the cooked.
Me too. And actually,
But now the raw is great.
yeah, and actually spinach is back on the market.
I know.
They've
Yes, I had
pulled
seen
the
that.
brands and we're good again. But the reason there are so many cases, it's actually very easy for food to become contaminated. It can become contaminated in our homes by improper handling. It can be contaminated before we even see it. It can be contaminated even before slaughter. You know, we just don't know. And it's very difficult a lot of times to spot it. But even things like, as awful as it sounds, you know, a cow's intestine will have bacteria that belong in its intestine. When it's slaughtered, if for some reason those intestines come into contact with the meat at any point, that meat can then be infected. If the people that handle the food, you know, taking it from the field to wherever, don't wash their hands, or they've been contaminated with something, they can pass it on. You know, it's everywhere. And so you really have to be careful that you wash your foods, you know, regardless of whether they say they're already washed. You know, if it says it's triple rinsed, it doesn't matter. Go ahead and wash it, because if that was washed in contaminated water, again, you know, we run the risk there of infection.
We ran into that in Mexico. We were told that if you go to a nice restaurant and eat their salad, you'll be okay. Not so. I can testify. Oh, it was awful.
Well, and again, sometimes, you know, if the water can become contaminated through the sewer system, you know, if it comes into contact with anything like that, from if people use fertilizer that contains manure, that can infect it.
It's just almost unlimited, isn't it?
It really is. The
What
good
could
thing,
happen?
though, is the vast majority of the microbes are killed by heat. So most of your foods you're going to cook. You know, there's really not that many foods you eat raw. So you're going to kill it that way. Now, there are a few that aren't, but on the whole, they are. And most of the others, by washing, you know, you'll take care of a lot of it. And I would say people probably get sick more often from things being mishandled in their home,
Right.
than they do that are mishandled outside the home. Our food supply in the United States is actually very, very safe. This E. coli scare has made people question, but when you consider the amount of food that is produced in the United States in 1 year, it's a miracle that, you know, that we don't have more foodborne illnesses, but it does show that we handle foods appropriately.
Right, and you know, and like I say, you go to a foreign country and it's just a totally different
Yeah,
story.
I've
So
run
we
into
we
that.
are very blessed.
We
to
are.
be
But
in America, and to have the, like you say, the safe food supply. I mean, something's going to happen every once in a while.
It is,
no matter
unfortunately.
what.
And again, most people will handle it fine. Even with this E. coli, most people were sick for about a week, but were eventually okay. With foodborne illnesses, the main people that are at risk are your elderly,
Right.
you're very young, or people that for whatever reason their immune function is compromised, whether it's disease, malnutrition, whatever it may be. But those are the folks that tend to get hit the hardest.
Yeah, I understand that, because it's if your immune system is down, you're just vulnerable.
You are very vulnerable, and those folks need to be especially careful with washing their foods and making sure their meats are cooked to the proper temperature, and just take special precautions.
I know, I think we have the holidays coming up soon, and people get so busy that they don't take proper care of themselves and their food. And
Well, and they're eating at buffets, and they're eating at potlucks and all those things, and you don't always know how clean someone's kitchen is, so it can be a little unnerving if you let yourself think about it too much. But most of it is fine. It's not nearly as common as we think it is, but more of it, I do believe, is in the home than
Than
the
out.
actual. Mhm.
listen, thank you so much for sharing with us, Pam, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you next week.
I'll be here.
Welcome back. I'm Jim Pollard with my wife Jeanetta, and our guest today is John Dyke. Now, during the break, John and I have been having a real good conversation, and we want to talk about some of the things that we talked about in the break, because this man is involved. He's, if you don't mind me telling his age, he's 75 years old, and he's doing what we're trying to get you to do out there. We're trying to get you to take the talent and the abilities that you have and put them to use as a volunteer in some organization, some agency somewhere. John works with the Red Cross, he works with the Baptist Disaster People, and he works with the Changers. Now, we've talked about Baptist Relief. We know some of the work that they've done. And tell us about some of the work with the Red Cross.
Well, the only thing I do with the Red Cross is mostly damage assessment. Where they've had a flood or whatever, we'll go to that place and decide whether that home is repairable or whether just mark it off.
And so that's what damage assessment is. You
Right.
actually
We make a
make
list
a determination.
for the Red Cross to tell them, well, we need doors, we need screens, we need windows, or we need porches, or whatever we need. Or the house just completely
Demolish it.
demolished. And we went up in eastern Kentucky when they had between the mountains, the coal mining area. They had the mudslides, and some of them had pushed houses plumb out down to the road where you could just barely get through, Of course, the houses up there, was in the ground on one side and 10 foot off on the other, And
Right.
I saw several of them, but the back doors had been pushed in and the house was full of mud. Just things like that. We were writing up our assessment of what needs to be done.
Right.
Then someone else decides what it's feasible or not.
Feasible or not to
Right.
do
Right.
it,
Depending on the cost, probably.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. What, let's talk about the changers. You were talking about,
Well, the changers are made up of the high school and college children, kids. During the summer break, why, they can spend 10 days, or well, really a week, out here on some project. You sign up with the KBC, and they go out to KBC will have 4 different places during that break that they've contacted, like cities. I know Hopkinsville's had some, and we've had them down in Benton, and in fact, I believe the one's coming up this time, Maysville, and I just got a letter this week on it. I forgot where it was, all 4 of them, but none of them close by, I don't think. But either kids that's interested, why, they need to get their pastor involved or the youth leader at the church, and he'll be getting all the literature on it and so on. And you volunteer, it costs $160 per person. But most of the time, a church will pay that bill, and maybe they're sending 5 or 6 or 10 people, ever how many wants to go.
mhm.
But to go out there and get there on Saturday or Sunday and have a church service. And then that afternoon, they'll decide, they'll be assigned their different groups. And even though there's 10 in a group, well, they may be one from this church, one from that church, and over yonder. That's where they all get mixed together. You really make friends.
That's what I thought. You get
Yeah.
to know a lot of people from
Yeah,
different
you really do.
areas.
But maybe you've got 20 groups or 15 groups, you don't know how many people we got. But one group is signed to a church in that area. And they look after them. They go to that church and worship on Sunday night, Wednesday night, and Sunday morning, and so on. That church also provides lunch for them. But most of the time, some of the disaster relief people does it in the local school or kitchen or cafeteria where we're staying. We feed them breakfast and dinner.
Mhm.
But the church that they're assigned to provides their noon meal. And they do a lot of things. They've been doing everything from putting in doors and screens and stuff like that, to roofing houses, or repairing gutters or painting, do a lot of painting.
It is physical work.
Physical work.
Yeah, I've heard, like, when they have a flood, don't they have to go in and dig the mud out of the houses sometimes?
Oh, yeah.
I think we heard Charlie talking about it. Charlie
Yeah,
Simmons
he's
talking about how he had
a
to
chainsaw and mud.
chainsaw and mud guy, right?
Yeah, that's his division. Yeah, I'm in the food division.
Yeah, Charlie is in
I think I'd like
Graves
your
County area.
division better. But they're both important. It's
Oh, yeah, yes, it
you
is.
got to feed the workers, or they don't have the energy to go out and do the work.
But yeah, he was talking about just some of the mudslides a couple of years ago, just in our area around in
Mm-hmm.
here, where they had to go and help clean out the places and everything, and do the different work like that. Well, let's go back to, I guess, Baptist Relief, because you've been so many different places doing that kind of work, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Did you do anything what was it? How many years ago was it? When we had the big flooding with the Mississippi, were you involved in that?
No.
Because I know that was big time, wasn't it? Up and down the Mississippi where it was going out and everything. But
I think I was away on a mission trip. I do a lot of mission work too.
Okay, okay. Where have you been on some of your mission trips?
Oh, I've been, Jamaica, Trinidad. I've been to Kenya, and I don't know. I've been on 23 different missions. I've been all over the world.
Wow, 23,
I've been doing it since '79.
79.
You might know one of my cousins, Donnie Jett. He goes on a lot of mission trips too.
He's at First Baptist Lone Oak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, John, we really appreciate you being with us today. It's always exciting to see people that are doing things. As I said earlier, that's what we try to do, is encourage those out there in our audience to get involved, because we believe that there's a wealth of talent and a wealth of ability that just sits down and does nothing after retirement. You know, they get to 50,
Well,
60, 65.
I'd like to say this: if you ever do it one time, it's catching.
It's the rewarding and catching, isn't it?
It's catching. You're gonna want to go back. I've had a lot of people I've got to go, and then, well, I don't know about that, but they're carried away. They aren't ready to go back.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Don't matter whether it's on a mission trip or on a changers or on just has to release.
That's great.
Yeah, well, that's great. Now, y'all listen to that, and you volunteer and get involved somewhere. And I know your local church will be able to help you get involved. Red Cross, they can. And the Red Cross is always looking for people, because
Yeah.
we're on their mailing list. They're always looking for people, and they do a good work, and we want to encourage you to be involved. Well, our show today has been about volunteering and doing relief work and different things like that. And again, we do want you to feel encouraged to go out and do that type of work, because with John telling us about the work that he's done, the different trips that he's been on, and you can, it just takes one time, as he was saying, it's kind of catching. So you need to go out there and get involved and do that. And we want to encourage you to watch our show. Our show has different themes and different things that we talk about throughout the year, but each one of them is to try to inspire you or give you information about some of the programs that are in the area, or to encourage you, to motivate you to go out and do some of these things. Remember now, our website is www.thefabulous50s.net, and we want to encourage you to visit our website for information and different things. And Jeanetta, give them our address.
Our address is P.O. Box 7, Bowes, Kentucky 42027.
Use it or lose it.
Can't see as well as I used to. Can't run as far or as fast. Sometimes I think that the old me is becoming exactly that. But when I start thinking of all I don't have, that's when I tell poor me. Beethoven was 50 and deaf as a post when he wrote his Ninth Symphony. And he'd say, go with what you got. Start from where you are. Give it your best shot. Keep reaching for that star. Get in the race, keep your own pace.